Welcome back to Junction 119. This is Kellan.
This is Casen.
Man, I have been waiting for this particular episode of this podcast for at least 2 years since we started it, Casen. You know
I'm aware.
exactly
I'm
why.
aware.
You know
I'm aware.
exactly why. I am really excited. How are you doing? I just said, hey, amazing hat you have on there.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks.
Casen's
Yeah, I'm
wearing a
doing
girl dad hat.
I'm doing good.
I'm wearing a
I
hat on behalf of the Metropolis Meteors. I had to rep Cleveland today. I
yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
had to do it.
yeah.
We're going to talk Superman. We are going to get into that. You're going to give our full review. And Kason, I actually have a story. I came up with a rating system for DC movies and
I
projects.
was I was going to bring that up
I
in that we
came up
need
with
to
one.
have okay,
I
okay.
came up with one. It
Perfect.
might be a little
Can't wait.
complicated to start. We
Okay.
might change it. But before we dive in, we're also going to talk about Ironheart. We're going to be mostly pop culture today. But we begin with breaking news that literally broke about 20 minutes before we start recording that TJ Watt of my Pittsburgh Steelers has agreed to a 3-year, $123 million extension with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Watt Watch is officially over before we even really get close to the season. I did not think this was going to happen this quickly.
Mhm.
Ultimately, I was kind of on record saying that I kind of wanted him to be traded. That's not happening. But with this deal, with this 3 years, 123 million, he is the highest paid non-quarterback to this point in NFL history. What are your thoughts on that? He outdoes your Myles Garrett.
Well, Miles Garrett's deal even got surpassed, I think. Was Miles's after Jamar, I think. Because I can't even keep track because there were a bunch of these deals to where
Yeah, good point.
I think Max Crosby maybe had the title and then Miles took I honestly can't even keep track because I think in
Yeah,
the past, like in this offseason, like Max Crosby, Miles Garrett, Jamar Chase, and now TJ Watt have all kind of traded being the highest paid non-QB.
there might be
And
another
so
one before the
and
season
and
starts.
and
So
so it just goes to show that like with the salary cap going up as much as it did this year, and I think it's expected to go up a significant amount again next year.
yeah,
And with a lot of these deals coming up, and especially with a lot of the rumors around the streaming bundles that the NFL is giving out to Amazon and Netflix and stuff, the salary cap is just it's
it's just
booming
just
and
going
it's
up. Yeah.
exploding. And so these teams are gonna give their star non-quarterbacks a ton of money.
This is just proof, though, that honestly, like, first of all, I'm happy with the deal. I'm happy he's going to be good. I like the length. All good. Don't have much more to say. I'm glad that TJ Watt is staying a Steeler, at least for now. This is just proof, though, that if the NFL didn't have a salary cap, there would not be a league. Like,
Yeah.
if it was like baseball or like some of those soccer contracts overseas, there would just not be like you couldn't pay an entire roster of guys. So,
Mhm.
so yeah, there you have it. TJ Watt remains a Steeler. I'm happy about it generally. I sent a meme to Casen in front of the show, Matt, that the Steelers are going to go 9-8 regardless, and no matter what they do. So it's kind of inevitable. I don't have much more to say beyond that.
Got to keep those TJ Watt jerseys in circulation.
You do, and all that TJ Watt merch. That would have been interesting. I for one would have traded him for draft capital for this draft or next year's draft, which again
I
is in Pittsburgh. But hey,
I get the point, but at the end of the day, he's like the only face of your franchise right now. And
correct.
so you just can't. I mean, I guess you could say Cam Hayward, but like
Yeah,
he's the biggest face of the franchise right now, and it's just like
he is.
trading him away is just not an option, I
Yeah.
don't think
But
for
I
the
will say that I think there's a realistic opportunity for him to be a Steeler for life.
mm,
I really do think that now could happen, which is a nice thought. He is the latest in the long line of great defensive players to be on the steel curtain, and that's what goes. Let's switch topics because we're trying to kind of get to soups here. You wanted to talk about the Barstool FS1 deal.
I just wanted to mention so it was rumored for a couple days and then it finally got announced today that um well a couple days ago an announcement that FS1 was laying off a ton of their talent. I think Joy Taylor is included, Emmanuel Acho, a ton of other people, and they're trying to reinvigorate their lineup because since the sort of falling out and ending of Undisputed with Skip and Shannon, they haven't really had an option in the early morning slot before Coward. And so they announced a pretty significant deal with Barstool to where Dave Portnoy is going to be on every Saturday on Big Noon Kickoff,
Yeah.
along with the fact that they are creating a new, basically Barstool morning show to fill the 8 a.m. to, or what is it, 9 to 12, or whatever that slot is before Coward. They're going to be filling in that slot with between Dave, Big Cat, and kind of a rotating cast of characters
Yeah.
from the company. So I just thought it was interesting because it's sort of similar to what we talked about with ESPN and Pat McAfee, to
Yeah.
where
So
they
self-made
they
sports media being
they
picked up by the
they
big dogs.
they lay off a ton of like traditional faces of the company and then hire or partner with a non-traditional media company. And so I don't know. I'll leave everybody up to make their interpretations over what this means and if it's good or if they like it. But I'll just say it's interesting that in
Yeah.
the wake of the ESPN Pat McAfee thing, FS1 decided to basically just kind of copy and do something similar.
I will say that, in their ongoing attempt to replicate college game day, it's an interesting move, especially knowing now that uh, Lee Corso will be leaving college game day. Big Noon is really trying to do its thing. I do think it's a good move strategically to get a guy like a Dave Portnoy on the show. I don't know if he'll be on there necessarily like Pat is on game day, but I can see him having like a segment. Like I immediately, what came to mind, how he does those pizza reviews. They should do a
Hmm.
whole segment where he like goes to tailgates or goes to like the local food like places and does like reviews as part of the show. I'm like, that's a good piece of content right there. Like I got content brain,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
thought,
I don't
or
know
like
how
does a
much
pizza segment in there, but like I don't know how much in the term of the X's and O's you really want him to be part of with the football conversation because he does know ball, but like he strikes
yeah.
me as like an answer to McAfee on game day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's there to provide some sort of comic relief.
Correct.
And along so from what he said today in the announcement, he will be at the desk every Saturday.
Okay. So there you go.
And when they do, and they've been doing their own Barstool show before, and that's gonna stay. And so they're gonna do that first, and
Interesting.
then because that show's typically I think like before Big Noon is on, and so like they'll do that as normal on the Barstool feeds,
Yeah.
and then he's gonna go over. So it'll just be wherever Big Noon is.
That is a long
Um,
that is a long day for him, but hey, it's
yeah, yeah.
Kirk Herbstreit's travel schedule's insane in the falls.
I
So,
I I would be very curious to know the numbers because
me too.
I don't know that probably won't ever come out, but I would be willing to bet that that is a significant amount of money and capital that FS1 is basically paying to license these people.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said for independent sports media becoming big time. Generally, that's a
Mhm.
pretty cool thing to see, regardless of the network. I will say that
Yeah.
regardless of how you feel about Barstool Sports, I don't even want to get into that. But
I mean, characters aside, it'll be very interesting come basketball season because you'll be able to have
yeah,
like Big Cat talk Wisconsin. You'll be able to have Titus talk basketball. So I mean that'll be very interesting.
well, even just football. I mean, I think that's
Yeah,
going to be interesting because I mean the PMT crew does have good football takes. They're more of a
yeah.
football show, mainly NFL. But now you can talk about college and other stuff. Not to mention the Unnecessary Roughness podcast that
Hmm.
Barstool has, which is really the only podcast of theirs I probably listen to consistently here and there during the season when big college football stuff happens, not any other time of year. But yeah, I mean, so that is fascinating. I didn't realize that all of that was a part of it as well.
So well, and also from what I have seen, they are building a studio for that show in their Chicago office,
Oh, well, there you go.
and
That
and
makes
and
sense.
I think that'll be very. I mean, that'll just be interesting to see how that works.
I
So.
agree, 100%. Uh, moving on here to the other sports story I had listed here. This is an interesting story because mainly just because of what the implications of it could mean. I put this on the list just as something because I wanted to hear your thoughts about it, bro. So the Bengals, I believe, first round pick. I believe he the first round pick for them.
Yeah.
Cincinnati Bengals first round pick. Yep. Shemar Stewart out of Texas A&M will as of, I mean, there's been an update to the story here as of today. It says that he's now not returning to Texas A&M, but this was flirted with this week. The initial story on Monday was that because of some disputes in his contract, which turned out to be that the Bengals were trying to do something in the way of there was a clause in his contract to where if he got in any kind of quote unquote trouble, they would void all of his guaranteed money for any future contract he had with the Bengals, which any agent worth his or her salt would say do not sign that contract. I personally, I would
Yeah,
think don't. Yeah,
from what I understand with the situation, I he's been holding out and refusing to sign his contract because the Bengals are insisting on a specific clause
yeah.
that nobody in the NFLPA wants him to sign that deal
No, 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 no.
because signing that the deal with that clause would be like precedent setting for the league, and every player hates that. And so I don't know what the Bengals are doing. I from my understanding, it's the perspective that it has is the Bengals overdrafted this kid who should have been drafted like in the second round,
Yeah.
and are insisting on all these clauses to protect themselves from buyer's remorse. And it's like it's not the kid's fault that you drafted him way
Yeah,
higher.
you made him a first round pick. He's
Like I
owed the
don't
first round pick money. Like,
like
what are we doing here? Like,
if you didn't have a first round grade on him, why'd you take him?
yeah, why'd you take
Like,
him? Draft someone else. And I'm just gonna sit here. Neither of us are Bengals fans, but we're AFC North people. Listen, I'm a Pittsburgh Pirates fan. It just sounds like one of the cheapest teams in the NFL being cheap again for cheap's sake.
yeah,
I am
yeah.
gonna take a shot at them by saying that. But that was an interesting thing though, that up until today he was flirting with the idea of going back to Texas A&M.
I think that was debunked because there's no way that's
Yeah,
even possible.
because
Like,
because from the time I first heard this, I'm like, how could he go back to Texas A&M? Does he have eligibility? And then on top of that, how could he re-enter the draft? He's already entered this one. Like,
there was a lot of talk about him being able to re-enter the draft because he didn't sign the deal, which may or may not be true. However, the threat and so like that's what they were saying was that he's not eligible to play, but they were saying that he'd just like stay in College Station until next year.
just giving the update since I skimmed it right here. He's debunked it. He is working out in College Station, but it's not. He has now said officially he's not planning to
Yeah,
return to the
I
Texas
mean,
A&M Aggies.
everybody does that. They just stay where they went to. Yeah,
It's probably like he has intention. Essentially, he is going to sign with the Bengals. That is the plan. It's just a matter of they got to hash that out. I just say, hey, just send your folks back to the negotiating table and let's get this figured out. You've got the NFLPA already kind of behind you on it. The pressure will cause them to move. It'll take some time.
It's just a bad look for the Bengals. I mean,
Terrible.
I know a lot of people are trying to drag the kid for like demanding more money, but it's just like at a certain point, like this is 100% on the Bengals. Like
I'm in the kids.
cannot,
I'm in Shemar's.
yeah,
I'm in Shemar Stewart's
you
camp on this
cannot
one.
be entering like training camp with your first round pick unsigned.
Correct. And honestly, like you do not want to be in a situation where some weird clause could void any of your guaranteed money. Like that leaves it up to the organization of whatever quote unquote trouble is. Like if you break a team rule that you don't know about, like can they use it for some other stupid thing? Like and before your NFL career even begins, you're going to be under enough pressure to make the team and be good. So like listen, yeah, it's a really weird look for an organization that tends to make headlines for these reasons. You know, never for anything good. Like, you know, I'm just taking shots now, but that's not true. But you know, you get what I mean. It
Yeah.
just it's
Is
you
there
know,
is there any anybody who's been able to find that clause in Deshaun Watson's contract?
I don't know, but I'm sure
I
many Cleveland Browns fans are like, wait a minute, you can just do that?
can we go back in time
Why don't
and
we
put
just
that in his contract, please?
why don't we just do that now to fix our chaotic quarterback room? So Uh, that's all I had as far as sports stories. Kind of 15 minutes in here. Do you want to dive into the pop culture segment, which is going to be the bulk of today's show?
Yeah, that's the most of today's show. And
So,
so
so we're
let's start off. Let's get through the ugly stuff before we can talk soups here.
so Kason and I were joking literally yesterday and yesterday in the last couple of days, and I'm like, all right, like I decided to finish up Ironheart, and we talked about the first three episodes a couple of weeks ago. We've since finished it, and spoiler alert for Ironheart because Marvel and DC and all these companies are in this kind of mode of if you haven't seen something in the opening weekend or within reasonable amount of time of it coming out, we're just going to spoil it for you, basically, whatever the big piece is. So, spoiler alert for Ironheart if you care, because we are just going to talk full spoilers here and decide to talk about the end of the back three episodes, not moment by moment, just stuff that stood out to us. In case, and all I can say is that I got increasingly more angry as the closer to the finale that we got. Um, and I want to preface this whole thing by saying I have no issue at all with the representation, the culture aspects of this show, the fact that it's like a black female leading protagonist. None of that stuff this show should have come under fire for. It is just a really, really weak script with a really, really weak lead character.
I
Go ahead.
I have issue with a lot of the like Gen Z stuff they're trying to slam in
Oh yeah,
here.
you did say that.
Like I'm like
Hey,
I
you still feel
am
yourself feeling older.
I'm I'm like 28 years old and I can't understand half of what they're saying. Like this is a problem. Like it's not the culture as far as like race or whatever. It's
No.
it's the age gap that you need that is present in this show is ridiculous.
Well, we've since kind of learned that this show was shot in 2022, which I checked was 3 years ago. And it was like I guess edited then, so a lot of this script and the choices were kind of reflective probably of the world and culture of that time, which 3 years is still a long time ago. But as I agree, so I think maybe that's part of it as well. But the end game of this did not necessarily go in what I would call a cool direction. But ultimately, the thing that I said might ruin the show kind of ended up happening, in which they tried to basically like combine the Iron Man centric part of this with what Riri's doing and reconciling with the death of her friend and everything, being the AI, Natalie, and everything. Essentially, everyone finds out about the situation where she let a member of the crew die. They're coming after her. And they combine it amazingly with the sorcerer magic side of the Marvel universe, and I would argue poorly, um, in a way that in which it felt very shoehorned in there, and I just could not get out of my head case. And I'm like, why did they make the choice? Because I don't think this would have worked in 2022 either or 2023. Why did they make the creative decision? They're like, it's almost like they said, okay, we'll appease the fans and we'll put Mephisto in something. Okay, don't put him in an Ironheart show. It just seems like that there's a complete mismatch in what like the Marvel project they had and the villain that they
I
went for.
is I'm not like a deep comic guy, so it's just like is this a thing as far as a comic book storyline? Like is there somewhere in the comic books of her character that like it gets involved with Mephisto at some point?
I'm not as familiar with Riri Williams, but to my knowledge, off the top of my head, I am not super familiar with like Riri, but Mephisto is a character who, if you're not familiar with in Marvel Comics, who's essentially the devil. Like he's that powerful. Think Dormammu. Think like on that level. He's an other dimensional, very nefarious, bad being. He is not the person you want to be in any kind of deal with. Like it makes it very clear in this show, very creepily, that that is the case. And essentially, in the comics case, and it's a matter of a lot of people get into deals with him to like to get something, but there's always a nefarious catch to it. Um, in the comics, it's actually very at times grotesque. Some of the things that happen. If you look up, I'm not going to describe it, but if you look up characters like Kindred in the recent Spider-Man run, he was a result of Mephisto, a deal he made with like Harry Osborn and stuff like that. Like I said, I'll let you go look that up on your own. It's not something I can really talk about on this show, but this was rather tame in compare. What I'm trying to say in comparison
Yeah.
to the ways that Mephisto is portrayed in the comics. If you're any familiar with the way things in the demonic realm can go, Riri Williams is no match for a villain like this. We're talking like we need Doctor Strange with backup.
I
Okay,
okay. Okay.
that's
So
how powerful we're talking here.
so let's sort of back up and try
Sure.
and like attack this first. I will say
Hmm.
I I love the character of Mephisto. I Sacha Baron Cohen's played it really well.
I agree.
He played it creepily and like something's
Most
up with
interesting
this
part
guy.
of the
Like
show.
yeah, I mean I never had any issue. I was sure he was going to be good at it, and he is. So he's fine. And so that was I think the best thing to come out of it was establishing Mephisto because we know we'll probably see him again with Wanda, Strange, Agatha somewhere. Like I'm sure we'll see him again.
He's the
Um,
only one in this show that I want to see more of.
right, exactly.
He's the only one.
Exactly. But so here's it makes sense in the context of when this was made because it was made right around the same time as No Way Home. And
Yeah.
so all these magicians have got to be sick and tired of cleaning up these little kids' messes that they made when they were doing weird magic stuff that they shouldn't have been messing with. Like somebody's gonna like Riri is gonna have to go to Strange or Agatha or somebody to try and get her out of this deal with Mephisto.
I was waiting
And
for Wong to just open a portal up and say, "Can you guys stop screwing around? Like
yeah,
this is bad. What are you guys doing? Where is the Sorcerer Supreme?" And also, it's very unbelievable to me. I know that there's the line where he's talking with Parker. They show the whole backstory of him and the deal he got into with Parker.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking to myself, you're telling me Mephisto is messing around with people at this level of power? Like what? Like what? Just for kicks? Like it's unbelievable to me that Mephisto would be caring about people this low on the totem pole,
I
unless it's just he's like, I just gonna mess with everybody, you know?
I it, knowing like Mephisto's like level of power, my thought was he made a deal with Parker to get him the deal with Riri.
Mm,
Is
I
that
can
like
see that.
he would be able to play the 4D chess of being like, well, I would need somebody to like instigate this like relationship with Riri. So I'm gonna do this guy who's then gonna go after Riri. Like he would be able to like Strange see all the combinations of ways and how he would need to go to be able to
Correct.
get the deal with Riri.
And who knows? Maybe the deal with Riri is another deal to get to someone bigger. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
he's playing 40 chess. You know?
Well, it like I know friend of the show Matt was talking about, it sounds like they're setting up the run of where Mephisto's like essentially establishing hell on earth in Las Vegas.
Yeah, and that's gonna
And
and
yeah.
season two of Moon Knight apparently might be headed that direction, which undoubtedly could be really cool. I don't see any puzzle piece into which like Riri Williams being other than like an agent of Mephisto's with her suit is like really like fun to me in my head.
Yeah, I don't understand because it's sort of implied that he needs her to owe him.
Yeah,
And and in my head, I was like, for her engineering prowess,
right.
like what can't you make with your magic that you need her to build? Like
Correct. And
I don't understand
yeah,
this.
yeah, that's what I mean. I'm like, okay, say what you will. I get that she's really smart and brilliant, like mechanically and all that stuff. But I'm like, she's still just like a college kid who can build things. Like, you're telling me that this is getting to the point where she's this pivotal for you to, again, unless it's like what you said, maybe it's like long game. I need by, season
Yeah.
two of Moon Knight or whatever. This is just a really weird avenue. They took this particular show. Um, it's like they big timed this show in a direction that like they really, really shouldn't have taken it. But I will say, if not for the Mephisto angle of this whole like show, why are we here? I come back to the question you asked
Yeah.
in our last episode. Why on earth are we here? And as much as I hate to say it, I really hate to say it. I think you're kind of onto something. Casen said to me off the show, folks, that maybe they should have Batgirled this whole thing. Um, I don't think it's necessarily that bad because I am guessing that like because the low of Marvel is not the low of pre-gun DC. You know what I mean? Like I am fully believing that Batgirl was unwatchable. Like just because that was so unbelievably unprecedented. I'm like, wow, so they would rather just kill this movie entirely than let it go. I don't think this is that bad, but the threads of where this show even goes just feels like June Disney Plus for June Disney Plus sake. It really does. Um, Thoughts about anything else, detail wise? I guess we should probably talk about Zeke Stain.
Yeah,
That I will say that what
I
the direction it goes with Ezekiel Stain goes, that was where the show for me jumped the shark completely.
yeah,
Thoughts? He turns himself into
I
a bionic man. I
I
was like,
don't.
okay.
I mean, is that a comic thing that Zeke Stain is like this? I just because I didn't understand the logic and like the motivation of any of that. Like I understand like him being pissed that he immediately got arrested because of what
Hmm.
Riri did. Um, but the whole like I don't know the whole like
He's so I'm reading
putting like things in his brain and stuff. It just didn't make
I'm
sense.
reading up on it now. It is relatively comic book accurate of the situation. I listen. I don't have anything with Ezekiel Stain in it, but it is comic book accurate, so I will give it that. They usually do things that are comic book accurate, but like for him to turn heel so quickly on Riri, why? Because I guess he got him in trouble. I'm like, I don't know if I can blame Riri for that as much as I blame you for it, dude. Like, you could have just said, I'm not going to help you and gotten her out of there. Like, I don't know. It just hit him turning heel against Riri the way that it happened. I was like, oh, okay, so he's just going to turn himself into something. And then, of course, Parker can control
I
him,
I guess also my question was so was that like bionic skin thing? Was that like his skin like DNA? Like how did they track that back to him?
I don't know.
Like immediately.
Yeah, I thought it was like, oh, okay,
I don't
I
I
guess
don't
Zeke's going
really
to jail.
I don't really remember what they were setting because they were setting up like I can't get like this can't be left behind, I can't be caught. And so like they were setting it up in the episode when it happened, and I don't remember how they would have like the designs. Like I don't really quite get how they were able to track that back to him immediately.
I don't know if it was ever directly explained, but it might have been like the biotech left behind or whatever. You said it was going to track to Riri. I think ultimately it tracked to him, and that's just kind of how it goes. I thought the arresting and pickup of Ezekiel Stain was pretty sudden and pretty like pretty poorly done. Like a lot of the beats
Yeah.
in this script, I will say. Um, it seemed like for conflict's sake. I will say, I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, the stupidest thing for me that happened was the thing I said. I really hope this isn't like a fight at the end between like Riri in a new iron suit and like a super powered like Parker with the red hood, and that's exactly what we got. We got a very clunky in warehouse CGI, not very looking very good fight between two awkward characters. It just screamed end of Secret Invasion for me, where that fight happens and Amelia Clark has all of those powers. It just seemed very. So it's just going to end with one big battle, and it's going to be like one way or another. She either gets the hood or something happens, and then probably Mephisto is going to approach her, right? And that's what happened. Literally, I kind of by beat, I was like, I think I kind of know how this finale is going to go. Um, to pay a little bit of to pay a little bit of prowess here. I think my favorite thing that happened in the last three episodes, Kason, was the fight of when she finally does get her suit when all of the crew are trying to attack her, and you do get to kind of see how versatile she is. That is until Zeke Stain shows up and lies that he killed her and stuff like
Hmm.
that to Parker. Um, we do ultimately find out who Parker was trying to rob, his own dad. So theoretically, Parker's now kind of going to see their friends who are witches or whatever, who have ties to Comatage. I don't know if the friends are going to help him out once they realize that he probably wants it to be evil. um, and my thoughts are, I'm like, well, isn't Parker still like rich after this? Like, doesn't he? Isn't he still like very rich because he's got all that, you know? So I don't know. But ultimately, what I said a lot. I'll let you respond to anything, and then I will say where we ended, and we can talk about that.
Yeah, ugh, I don't really have a ton else to say I other than like just the overall summarization of the fact that out of what we've seen of her, like Riri Williams is just a terrible human being. Like
Yeah,
she is a selfish little toddler that like is causing major problems because she doesn't understand how to not put herself into situations.
she's so unlikable in this show.
Like she made a deal with the devil to get her
Yeah,
dead friend back, and it's just like this is outrageous. Like
it utterly outrageous. And honestly, if I was writing a thing, you would think that the arc of the show, her character arc, would be learning to maybe not let go, but learning to get past it, finding a way to get through grief or something like that.
yeah.
And ultimately, I thought that the kicker of the show was going to be like she doesn't take the deal. Like a better way to end this would have been that
Yeah,
she doesn't take the deal. Mephisto's mad that she didn't take the deal, and now maybe Mephisto has a little bit of a vendetta against her. But
that
but
would have
she
made a lot more
and
sense.
then the show ends with her like making Natalie again in AI form. No, they take it the more ridiculous direction where she does take the deal. And then they have this montage where Natalie's there, and I'm like, are they about to tell me that she's back to life and she actually took this deal? And then they did, and I was like, this is the stupid.
Yeah.
This is maybe the worst
Well,
writing beat they could have
because
gone with.
she was completely aware of what that meant, and she was like, "I'm not taking this deal. I'm not taking this deal. Okay, I guess I'll take it." Like,
And I just was confused. I'm like, wait, you want her back so badly, but they made it seem at the end like all she wanted back was the AI of Natalie. And then when Natalie actually pushes her head and she's like genuinely freaked out, like in that moment, I got to be honest, if knowing that that had just happened, she hugs Natalie, that would terrify me because there's no coming back from this situation. Like when Natalie walks into the room and she's alive, what is the rest of your family going to think about that? You know what I mean?
but
Like,
along with the fact of like Natalie's brother,
mm-hmm.
who was so pissed at Riri for doing the AI thing, and like I was that scene in like that junkyard when he got like super mad at her. I was like, well, yeah,
Yeah,
like
I would be very
like
upset.
yeah.
Like, yes, I would be very upset and freaked out in his situation. And he certainly got over that easily because he's in the montage like the next day, basically. I'd be like, no, I'm not helping you out. Like, I'm like, okay, she must have had really great writing skills with the Star Trek letter she wrote
Yeah,
for
I don't.
Xavier to come back like nothing happened. I'm like, no, like we're not talking for a while after this. Like, what you did was traumatizing to me and selfish for you. But no, okay, fine, whatever. Let's seal magic in the suit so you can go fight a monster. She's now going to become more
Also,
corrupt like
yeah,
Parker.
also that
Yeah.
whole thing was insane. Like her friend that's like the witch like puts a spell on the suit. I was like, where are the adults in the like you went to Camartage and you're telling me that you did not have any thought to talk to anybody that knows what they're doing more than you?
Well, and
Like
they made it seem like obviously we've seen Agatha all along, right? We know there's subset of magic users that are outside
yeah.
of the Comitage people. Her mother, that character's mother, made it seem like she brought her back because she didn't seemingly agree with them. So I can kind of see that being believable of they would do some magic stuff behind the back of
Yeah,
Comitage.
yeah.
But you know what it honestly made me think of? It made me think of like Full Metal Alchemist, if you're familiar with that anime, where he seals the soul of his brother to a suit of armor. Made me think of that. I'm like, she's gonna put some sort of hex to where she can somehow fight a magical being and it's fine. Um, Anyone else, she would lose this fight. Um,
Also, did we even figure out what that did?
no, other than
Like, like, like,
no,
did that do anything to the
no,
suit?
she didn't use any magic in fight, so no.
I was like, what was the point of this? Like,
Uh,
you lost the AI,
yeah,
and then like nothing ended up happening. Like,
yeah.
I don't. there was zero, like they spent so much time talking about and dealing with the like magic spell on the suit that it had zero payoff. That I was
I
like,
thought for sure like the killing blow, so to speak, or whatever, was going to be magical, and no, it was just an illusion. Like it was an illusion that she projected that realistically she probably could have done without magic. So I don't know.
was that even a magic? I just thought that was like the thing that the suit does that
Correct.
projected Natalie. Like I was like,
Correct.
I
She
don't.
wins that fight by putting an illusion out there. I'm like, well, she probably could have just, Natalie showed that she could somehow do that.
Also,
So
also like I absolutely minus a million points on this show. I for what they did to that car. Like you
oh, I agree.
destroying that car. I like let alone the logic of this car somehow turned into an Iron Man suit
Yeah, it
is
did.
insane.
Yeah.
But also like the concept of destroying that car for the suit is despicable. Like
Yeah, it is.
this is the car that was like so meaningful to you that that like your stepdad bought and just tearing it apart to put in some suit that you know is gonna get destroyed. Like that's insane. Like again, the most selfish character I've ever seen in this
Yeah.
universe.
I
Like
I would go as far as to say that like this might be the worst Marvel show overall. Like I just because
yeah.
so much
Yeah.
effort and time went in, and I feel bad for folks involved because like you get into a Marvel project really thinking it's going to be kind of your big break, and like the thing with Secret Invasion is they took that some interesting directions in terms of expanding on Nick Fury's character. And I would argue, still to this day, Secret Invasion did a lot for his character, showing his backstory with the Skrulls and everything like that. It came to a really clunky, boring ending. It was really bad, but at
Mhm.
least it was that one day. This one, in a lot of ways, they made some significantly big character decisions within at least the lore of this show, and they took everyone in directions where I'm like, man, I don't really like anybody at the end of this show. And like I said, I'm genuinely not excited for any of this to return, any of these people to return, except for Mephisto and Sacha Baron Cohen as Mephisto, because he was genuinely like interesting. Gotta also point out the little spoon tap where you get to see the reflection of what he actually looks like is probably the
Yeah.
coolest single image of this entire show. That was actually really, really well done. Where he taps where he's stirring the coffee and you see what he actually looks like briefly, and he looks terrifying. And I thought to myself, yeah, they can't show that on a Marvel show TV. I was like, but I also thought to myself, if they did something like that, he would probably look incredibly goofy. So, probably look like Hellboy or
They
something like that
I mean I'm sure they will at some
at
point
some point.
in some like magic project
Yeah,
they will show him in
for
full
sure.
costume.
And honestly, if you're listening to the show and you want to go see what Mephisto actually looks like in the comic, he looks very comic booky. Like he looks like a red version of Nightcrawler. That's the best way I can describe
Mhm.
him. I mean, that's what he looks like. So, um, do we want to rate this up, Kasen, so that we can roll right into what we're here for?
Yeah, so we can stop talking about it. Yeah,
Yes.
let's.
Just a reminder, we have a system for rating Marvel movies. It goes bronze, silver, gold, vibranium, adaptanium. What are you rating this, man?
Bronze.
Yeah, bronze. I almost said we can just say it at the same time and count to three. This is bronze. I figured it would happen at some point where we were this down on a Marvel project, but man, like I just I am happy to ultimately they didn't Batgirl it. I am because anything there's going to be fans of these characters. There's going to be fans of Riri Williams. It happens with everything. And I think anything that was worked on should be shown. But thank goodness they have since pivoted to much better scripts. And
I
yeah,
as an aside, I'll just compare it. So real quickly, I liked Miss Marvel a lot more than I think you did.
yeah,
Because I appreciated the differences that they were doing.
hmm
And the big difference between this was at the beginning of Miss Marvel, like Kamala Khan is like kind of in a similar way to where she's like kind of spacey, like not real focus on a big picture. And then by the end of the show, she makes all these big things to end up saving the day and, you know, that are for something bigger than herself.
And at no point did I ever think that Kamala Khan was not a good person. At no
Right,
point.
right.
I
You,
thought
you
she
just thought
wants to
like
be a hero. She wants to.
she also objectively was like 16.
Yeah,
So like we meanwhile Riri's like 20 years old.
correct.
And
Correct.
the show starts with her being so like out of sorts and like unaware of her priorities that she gets kicked out of college.
True.
And then it ends with her making a deal with the devil to bring back her dead friend. Like there is no character growth in this entire show
The
for the
arc just
main
went down.
character. Like like what?
Been quite a like week or two since she left college. That's like, wow. We really have. It is very, very true. On Miss Marvel, like compared to Miss Marvel, I don't think it's even fair to compare that show to this one. But in doing that, yeah, I mean Miss Marvel, I forget what I rated it, but I could not rate Miss Marvel anything lower than at its worst moments, maybe a silver. I forget what I gave it. I probably gave by our current standards, I probably would give it a gold. But I forget what I did. It was a long time ago. But yeah, that's our thoughts on Ironheart. I'm not apologizing to anyone involved, but it just seems like these June projects on Disney Plus, Casen, are just gonna be the maybe our low point of the year every year.
Yeah.
And listen, we're a pretty positive show. We try to find the positives, even for things that we really love. Positives and negatives. We try to give everything a fair shake, and it seems like every June project. I mean, still listen back to our acolyte shows because they're so funny to me. Glad to know that this is going to be another one. So, is it time for Superman?
Yes, let's clean the slate and look, I'll just
We're going to
preface
do a
this by saying,
non-spoiler review first on this movie because I think
yeah.
there's a lot that can be talked about non-spoiler. Go for it.
Yeah, so I'll preface my overall thoughts with this statement of we just got done talking about Ironheart and Kevin Feige and the crew are in for a lot of work and they have a major problem because James Gunn has it going on. Like
Yeah.
they he to contrast with the project that Marvel just put out with the project that DC just put out, like this is we are talking about a flailing franchise that's trying to keep relevant along with a new upstart that has nothing but green grass in front of it and it's running at full speed. So I that'll just be something
Full
to think
speed
about. I
ahead.
mean, we're in for a great time of what I would call the comic wars.
Hmm.
Um, and so I mean, it yeah, I mean, so clearly I like this movie a lot. I'm not I haven't been a DC guy just because outside of, the Dark Knight movies,
Sure.
there hasn't really been a great like Superman movie that was really, enthralling to get to the heart of the character and that made you actually care about the people involved. And
I would agree.
and for my personal opinion, for me, I this movie did that. I mean it made me really fall in love with the universe that he built.
One of my favorite text messages I've ever gotten in my life, Kason, was what you texted me and friend of the show, Matt. You said, I don't know how he did it, but James Gunn did it. He put together a film that I genuinely loved, and you said, and actually care about the DCU. And here's the thing. It's one thing when the audience score comes out. I mean, when the Rotten Tomato score came out as a 91 to start, I was like, yeah, I'm sure this is incredible. Like I literally was like, at least critics like it. It came down to like an 86. As of today, we're filming this on a Thursday. Critic scores at an 83. Audience scores at a 93. I'm like, the audience score is going to be better because I'm sure he knocked that out of the park. He did, but when someone I know sees it, that's when I like, and I know how you review movies and see something. When a skeptic like yourself, and to some degree, friend of the show Matt, sees a movie like this and has that glazing of a text to send to me, you should have seen my face. I leaned back in my chair and I was just like, Thank God. Like, thank you so much, James Gunn. The gun don't miss. Let's get into what we can talk about with non-spoilers here.
I
Yeah, go
will
ahead.
say,
Yeah.
the movie wasn't in black and white. I don't not a huge fan.
Yeah, yeah, it's so dark. No, honestly, I mean, honestly, I thought every casting decision I thought was fantastic. Corn Sweat is a fantastic Superman. This is a younger Superman. He's only been doing his thing for 3 years. Again,
He's
without
also
getting,
like
yeah.
we've also been going back and forth like for a week just with different like video clips of him on different shows and
Oh
stuff
yeah,
done the press circuit. Like he's also a really funny guy.
yeah,
And what you see a lot with the comic book movies is the actors who get it are the ones who bring it the most and are able to provide the best performance. Like
absolutely.
he is he is a nerd through and through for everything. Like there was a video that I think went around the internet a couple days ago of him talking about Casino Royale for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And like he is a film nerd, he's a comic nerd. He's into like really what understands motivations because he like going on the Casino Royale thing, like he was talking about like how in the opening Casino Royale, James Bond had like an easier way to kill somebody because he had already theoretically killed one person twice.
Yeah.
And so like going through that logic with him, like he understands character motivations and how to play that. And that was very evident. I mean,
Oh yeah.
he was very able to do that in this.
This is a fantastic film for that. Like I said, every casting decision was fantastic here. It's got characters in here that steal the show for sure. I would also argue that if you are someone who hasn't seen this movie that's worried about seeing too much in the trailers, if there is a criticism, I can say that like some full scenes that they definitely showed in trailers and in clips, but it doesn't spoil the plot of the film. I will say that genuinely, the script took some turns that I did not expect.
Yeah.
And it does a very good job of making you care about where DC goes next. You can go ahead. Look like you're
Well, I
tip
was
of your
just gonna
tongue.
say I forgive it for showing too much in the trailer
Hmm.
because I feel like James Gunn was in a position to where he had to make you want to buy in to come see it. That
Correct.
like in order to establish some sort of like trust with the audience, he had to give you more than I think he probably would want.
That's true.
Just to be like, here's a nugget of something I probably wouldn't normally give you, but I have to buy some goodwill from you. So here's something that like that will buy or that will draw you into come seeing the movie.
I would also say that you do not need to know anything about DC Comics going into this film.
Mhm.
It definitely is a movie that hits every Superman beat from the comics. Um, in ways, one of the criticisms I've heard of this is just that like I've seen some of these things done better. It's like, well, yeah, well, that's why he was going for something like this, where you could just open up a comic book and open up this story and just fall into it and immediately understand it. Because he's not only having to set up the character, but I also think he did a great job. This movie does a very good job of setting up the world to where
Mhm.
by the end of this movie, I want to see literally all of these characters again. And you
Yeah.
will too. You'll be able to find some characters and some stuff and some story beats in this film that you walk out and saying, wow, I really want to see that person again, and that person again, and that
I
person again. And it's not even just Superman, you know?
and here's the thing. I mean, we talked a lot about this with Guardians Volume 3 as well. Like James Gunn is really good at this.
Hmm.
And it felt like a Guardians movie inside a Superman comic book. Like it like when you're talking about like the dynamics between all the different like tertiary characters and like it just felt like there were so many different things of like, oh, this is, just like the Guardians comedy coming out and the
Hmm.
writing like I'm thinking of the scene of when Lois goes to the Hall of Justice and is like, going back and forth with,
Oh yeah,
with everybody. And is like,
yeah.
what do you?
Her
He's like,
interacting with
yeah,
folks, and I will also say non-spoiler. If you got from the trailers that Crypto is going to steal the show, he does. It just he is as good in this movie as you think or probably am hoping for. Another criticism I'll say that people have been using telling me it looks really cheesy. That's somewhat the essence of of the great Superman stories have because he is such a good goofy guy sometimes.
Mhm.
I will say that there is an element of that in here, but it's not off-putting. Like I would say that I think that you'll find that they take the direction of the character in ways that you probably didn't really expect, but it's in a good way. He definitely, where I'm going with this is, it's not going to feel like a golden age or silver age thing. It feels like a Superman for the modern age. It feels like 2025. It feels like, it definitely feels and looks like a comic book, just with the way people are dressed and just all that, like the DC age. But it feels real. Like it feels like this could happen in a modern day 2025 setting. From the other world conflicts that are going on, to the governmental conversations that are going on, to all of the different pots that like Lex Luthor has his hand in this movie. Um, and here at the core of it is this guy who is all powerful and yet still just trying to do the best that he can, like any of us, right? If
Yeah.
Do you have any more non-spoiler things to say? Because I do want to explain my rating system.
No, yeah, let's get into the ratings and then we
Let's
can
get into
talk
the
about
ratings. So I had one of my undergrad students had a great idea today. We can try this out because it might be a little bit confusing at first, but DC is very big on its groups of characters, and there are various names of groups of characters.
it. Okay.
And it's like, well, why don't you do instead of a rare item or material? Because at least right as of now, we don't really have that in the DCU, at least not yet. So we're gonna go from the worst group that's in the DC to the best, and there's 5 levels. Worst being Legion of Doom. Second worst slash best. Then or powerful you can go with. Teen Titans is the next above that. Above that, Young Justice, Justice Society, and then the top for this is Justice League. Okay,
Hmm.
so running through that one more time: bottom, Legion of Doom, then Teen Titans, Young Justice, Justice Society, Justice League.
Okay.
It's a working rating system. We might change it, we might not. It might be a little bit confusing, just with the different names of in there. I can re-explain it, but that's what I think we can try to go for this first real ushering in of the
Hmm.
DCU, and we might change it in the future. But does that work for you, Casen?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. What would you rate James Gunn's Superman 2025? And then we will dive into spoilers.
Well, I mean, for I guess lack of really anything else to compare it with, I will put it into Justice League.
Okay.
Just because I don't know what, there isn't really anything else to compare it to.
Yeah,
And it's the best comic book thing that I've seen in a while. So,
I would also
mhm.
agree, and I will also put it in Justice League because before we go into spoilers, I will also say that this movie was a cut above. Like I walked out. I want to also say this. I saw it twice, and the reason I saw it twice is I think I was so anticipated the first time and went in with my critic brain, man, that there were times I was kind of on edge and I was trying to get every little thing, and then I was like, let me go and see it again when I get back to Ohio. Um, and I will say I saw this a second time in a packed theater in the Cleveland area, and every single Cleveland moment there was like a little pop of kind of applause or a hub, and it was so fun. But the second time watching it was much more enjoyable because I could just sit back and enjoy the movie for what it is and see all the subtleties. And I can genuinely say that walking out of this theater both times, I thought this film really makes me feel like this is a touchstone in comic book filmmaking. Think like Avengers Endgame, the first
Mhm.
time I saw the first Spider-Man movie. Walking out of maybe the first Iron Man made me feel a little bit of that. Like that was surprisingly good. Walking out of the second Captain America movie, Winter Soldier, where something is so good out of the gate, just to say, just to call this a good Superman movie, kind of does injustice. This feels like we could be talking about this movie in 2028. Like, yeah, that was the turning point. That was when DC started, and that was when potentially Marvel realized, okay, we got a problem on our hands because of the quality of this film. But this was also a character. This is also like a movie that I couldn't have seen James Gunn maybe even making like 4 or 5 years ago. And not only did he make it, but I might go as far as to say this might be my favorite film of his, from start to finish. And that includes all the Guardians movies. That's no knock to them. It just, I thought that he pulled this off that well. Um, so that being said, do we want to dive headlong into spoiler talk, Casen?
Yeah, yeah, we can get into that. I will also just sort of quickly say,
Yeah.
I saw it Thursday night, opening, night before night, and it was a pretty packed theater as well, and everybody was clapping at the end. They were pretty
Yeah.
vocal and expressive. Um,
You felt moved walking out
and
of the
and
theater.
well, and I will say, this is the first time I've ever had this experience. I walked out. There were a couple guys that were in front of me leaving. They were talking about the movie. They looked back at me and asked me my thoughts about the movie too.
Wow.
And so I was like,
Random
okay,
stranger.
yeah, yeah, random strangers. They
Okay.
were
Yeah.
like, "What'd you think of the movie?" And I was like, "I liked it, yeah." And so that I was like, that to me was very interesting. That like I've never been in a movie before where like random strangers were like talking about how much they liked it and asked my opinion.
That's really cool because my experience was a little bit like that walking out of it the second time. And I actually said to a couple of guys who were sitting to the right of me, is there a post credit scene? And I actually said to him, I've actually already seen the movie. There is one more. And then I didn't stay for it the second time. Sorry. Cause I was like, I've seen it. I can beat some traffic here. But that's fascinating because you know what I've heard a lot of takes of this week? I've heard some pretty negative reviews of this movie from trusted reviewers of mine. And, I don't necessarily, well, I won't necessarily name names because I think some of them, yeah, I will. I will name one name. Jeremy Johns and like Angry Joe, some of those like content creators, one of which is a Superman purist. Jeremy Johns has never liked a single James Gunn movie. He gave bad reviews to all three of the Guardians films. So I'm like, if you don't like the James Gunn style, well, I'm sorry, this is that whole movie. So you're just not going to like it. And I understand it, but the Superman purists, some folks who have been like so angry with it, and I'm not talking the politics of this movie. I don't even really get into that. Some of the Superman purists who are really unhappy like with this, I'm sitting there thinking to myself the second time, I'm like, what more do you want from a Superman movie then? Like, because this is as comic accurate as it gets. And I don't necessarily blame Zack Snyder for that. I just think that like some people go into a project like this and it's not 1978 Christopher Reeve. And it's like, yeah, but guys, we're talking about the oldest comic book character that exists, like the oldest superhero. Anything you can do with them has probably been done before in some form of media. And I still felt like this was a really refreshing view on the character. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I just wanted to mention that before we dive headlong into really deep stuff. But
Yeah,
yeah,
no, I mean, I definitely it feels like the the negative hate towards the film is pretty much exclusively from the Snyder fans, the people who for whatever reason just don't think that it's, accurate enough to the character, which is
right,
not true. And also the people who are politically against the
correct,
story, which
right,
what we'll move on from that.
sure, yeah,
But like nobody is saying that the movie's bad. They're just saying they disagree with the direction that they
that's true.
took.
That's a good point.
Like
That's a
like
good
because
point.
they can't say it's bad. They just say they don't like the content of
I'm
it.
almost to the point where I'm like, if you walk out and say that movie's bad, I'm sorry, you're just wrong. Like, just because no, it isn't. Everyone. Now, let's go. Let's dive into this, and let's just. We're not going to go scene by scene, but we do. I do want to kind of dive into some stuff. I absolutely loved the relationship between Clark and Lois. I thought that those two, Rachel and
I
David, had great
I
chemistry.
I liked that. So I like that you pick up after he's been Superman for a while,
Yeah,
and then you pick up like after he and Lois started dating for a couple months,
right.
and so like they already have this dynamic, and so it's really nice to just sort of be thrust into the middle of this situation, and then you just kind of get to witness how everything's sort of already in place, and it's all kind of because you don't have to like because it's already been done like 1,000 times of you know Clark becoming Superman, and
Right.
then yeah, it's already been done, so that just wasn't that
And you can
necessary.
get an idea of what the origin story in my head was for this
Yeah.
dude. Like he definitely feels like a younger Superman. He definitely feels like what like for the first time in this movie he's really being questioned about doing some of the stuff that he's done unwillingly because it's like Superman is the dude who Clark is the guy who oh, if I can help someone, I'm not going to stop and think about it. I'm just going to
Hmm.
do it. And Lois is like, yeah, but if you stop and kind of think of the implications of what could happen, and it's just a very good back and forth of just the way they view the world, and it feels like a
Yeah.
realistic way that this couple would talk to each other and have
Yeah,
conflict,
the
honestly.
whole scene in her apartment was terrific.
Yeah,
Of
I agree.
like the whole interview thing of where like they kept like clicking off the recorder.
Yeah. And she says something, it's like, oh yeah, you just don't like that because you're insecure about whatever, whatever, like the way they said. And he's like, well, you can't use that.
Yeah.
It felt both like Superman, but also you can tell they're a couple and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
it's like they're interviewing in a way where like Lois in no way is going to use like any of this. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
it's a example type thing. But yeah, so there's that. Um, we got to talk about this, man. The trinity kind of this film. Lex was an absolute demon in this. Like,
Yeah.
oh man, Nicholas Hoult. You said you were worried about Nicholas Hoult in this movie being cast, and I thought he was great, man. I was like, man, they made him very
Yeah.
hateable immediately.
Yeah.
Like, but they also just made him the biggest hater on planet Earth. But the thing that makes Lex like scary is that he will burn down humanity to kill Superman. Like they make
Yeah.
that very abundantly clear. Um, what immediately comes to mind about Lex for you?
Um I so the one thing that I thought sort of removed me from the movie a little bit was just like the extreme lengths that he was going to where like this whole split, and then it was just more kind of like, how does nobody know that this guy is like an evil psychopath, and he's like front row, he's like in meetings at the Pentagon, and like nobody has any idea that he's a sociopath.
No one's questioning anything he's doing. And around the time where he kind of, to me, hits supervillain is when he takes him into the Pocket Universe. That's
Yeah.
like when I'm like, oh, okay, so we like he's been doing straight up like really nefarious things here. Like this should not exist kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh yeah, anyone who makes me mad, I just kind of put him in here. Including,
Like
yeah,
nobody noticed
she
that
wrote a
all of his
blog about me.
enemies just disappear.
Yeah,
Like
I'm like, yo, there's a lot of people in here. Is Lex just disappearing everybody? Like, these go on for quite a bit. Like, it's not like a small amount of people. Like, has it not been said that you don't cross Lex Luthor or people disappear yet? Like, but then it was also interesting. I think the thing that was a little bit unbelievable for me, just to give the movie some criticism, you're telling me he has a whole room full of goons who are just fine with everything he's doing. You know what I mean? Like that's a little bit
like
ridiculous because
it
what is a
well,
supervillain if not someone with incredible human resources?
I will say, once it got to the point where they was like splitting Metropolis, the guy was like trying to get him to stop, and
True.
he wasn't going to. And so I think at that point everybody in that room was just scared.
That's true. That's true. He's willing to burn down anything here. And let's not get on his bad side. Let me get to a place where I can at least survive this situation. That's a
Because
good point.
they've seen what happens to people who cross him,
True.
and so
That's a good point.
they were just like afraid of expressing their
Of him.
opinions.
Yeah. Like even that line where he's like, sir, like things are over, and he's like, sir, shouldn't we close the portal? He's like, nah, let it they chose him, let them die. We will stop it before it gets to a city I care about. I was like, bro. I was like, okay, all right. And then of course, one of my favorite scenes in the movie happens after that, where they bust in and stop him and everything. I know I'm skipping around here, but one of my favorite moments of the entire movie was Soups gives his whole spiel of like, hey, I make mistakes. I get up every day, one foot in front of the other, like you. The whole spiel is just incredible. Like someone's gonna get a tattoo of that whole scene. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I'm like the essence of Superman, and then Lex is about to give his like anger spiel right back to him, and then Crypto just attacks him. That that was one of my favorite moments in a comic book movie of all time. And people pointed out like, wow, I was like, man, Crypto just doesn't listen. I'm like, nah,
I
he can. I was thinking to myself, nah, he tortured Crypto. Crypto can take him out here.
the 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 character of Crypto
Oh,
in this movie was so great. He's a terrible dog. Actually, he's a
yeah,
terrible dog.
yeah. Well, it was like, what? You're gonna find him? You're gonna turn yourself in? Yeah, I gotta find. Yeah, I have to find the dog. He's like, well, yeah, but they'll probably, yeah, but like, won't he do something? It's like, yeah, he's actually not a very good one either, but he's probably alone and scared. Like, um,
Well,
but
a
there's
lot
even
of
a line. There's even a subtle line though in that scene that I missed the first time that I got the second time. She asks him, "You have a dog?" And he's like, "Not really. It's more of a foster situation."
yeah,
He
yeah,
says right there, "It's not his dog," and I'm like, "Oh, I
yeah,
missed that the first time." You know? Go ahead.
yeah. Of which I don't blame him for going into a pocket universe to get his cousin's dog back because yeah, no,
Yeah,
I don't want to cross her.
yeah. No, I thought about that too at the end, and it's funny because like he only does that. He only turns himself in because he's trying to find crypto. Like that's actually
Yeah.
a really pinpoint part of the film. Got to talk about the Justice Gang. Got to talk about
Hmm.
them because I thought they all did a pretty good job. I don't think Hawk Girl really got much to do. Mr. Terrific though. Like, you know,
Yeah, he was great. He was
dude,
great.
he walked out. I'm like, the second time I saw it again, the folks beside me were like, okay, I love this character. Like, and I thought to myself, if you're gonna have a moment like that scene where he just takes everybody out, I'm glad they did it with an obscure character like Mr. Terrific, and it wasn't like another major Justice League character. You know what I mean? I thought about that a lot, especially on the second viewing, because I thought to myself, Mr. Terrific is pretty obscure. And a lot of people even said, I felt like he upstaged Superman in his own movie. I'm like, not really. He just has a really cool fight scene. Like,
Yeah.
you got to show that he's a threat and he can just take all this stuff out. And his power is that he's just a really smart guy. I'm like, yeah, he's like Black Tony Stark, you know? Um, I didn't feel that way at all, especially the second time around. But the fact that he's able to go in there and kind of actually help them with the whole pocket universe situation, we get to meet Metamorpho, who they kind of imply is kind of a sensitive guy in this movie.
Hmm.
Any thoughts on Metamorpho and Joey, the baby? Probably the weirdest imagery in the movie,
Yeah, yeah.
honestly.
I I mean I thought that it was kind of a neat character moment. I mean, you had him basically being held hostage
Yeah,
to be torturing uh Superman, and then he was like, "You promise you can get my son?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then I it took a long time for him to get his energy back after that went out.
yeah.
And so I think realistically I the part that didn't make sense was that he was still able to get over there because there was a long time between when that went out and when he was able to actually
Well,
go to get
he made the sun, so I kind of took that as he got Soups enough power to be able to help them out of that situation. Because I actually love the moment they fly out of there after they almost
Mhm.
go through the black hole, which is a Chekhov's gun moment, by the way. Because I'm like, I'm sure someone's going to go through a black hole in this movie now. He gets out of there, and then the portal closes immediately. Like Clark gets up, and he's like winded still, but he's like, "There's more people trapped in there. We got to go get them." And he was about to go right back in, like once they got out. And I was like,
Mhm.
"Dude, like, no, like you, like, we can't go back in right now anyway. You need to rest." Like, and he's like, "No, as long as I like, he will act before he thinks sometimes." And they show that as again, it's a young Superman. He's not thinking about that. He's like, "Oh, what good can I do?"
Which I do think that long-term vision is that is going to be something that he has to reckon with
Yep.
and learn from some other characters is how to prioritize what is actually, possible and how to, realistically think about like the consequences of,
Right.
just doing that.
A better way to go about it. Like a good way I can describe it for you, my friend, and the viewers is this Superman right now is not one that I would feel comfortable leading the Justice League.
Yeah.
Not at all. I mean, like I would be like, I feel like we need like a good 5 years, man, 5, 10
Yeah.
years of you dealing with situations before we and other villains before I'd be like, yeah, he should lead the Justice League and found it.
I mean
No.
I do think that is something that the dynamic between a Batman can come into play to
Yeah,
where
world's finest.
he learns how to be a bit more grounded and like because that's something that Batman sort of lives on is you know I doing bad things for the benefit of others and making sacrifices of like torturing evil people is fine if it protects the city. Like
Hmm.
doing like those kinds of decisions are something that you can have a good conversation. So like a much better and more well written like Batman versus Superman dynamic would
Yeah.
be good for him to learn from, because like that was the issue I think with the last one. Was it was just like Man of Steel was already dark enough, and it was
Hmm.
just like I don't like you. The whole point is that like Superman is super idyllic and lives in this like fantasy world of where everything is so black and white, and
Black
he
and
just loves
white.
people. Yeah.
And Bruce is like, actually, everything is shades of gray. And that dynamic is what makes them good. I do hope we do get a proper world's finest at some point where those two
Mhm.
like maybe have conflict at first, but then team up, and do their thing. Um, I do like also the dynamic of, I think by the time we get to the DCU Batman, he probably will have been around for a while for enough stuff to happen and maybe Titans or
Mhm.
other stuff. And I like the dynamic of maybe Batman's been in Gotham for like 5-ish years, 5, 6, 7 years now. And Superman's still pretty new. So there's some, maybe not some initial mistrust of, yeah, they've got that guy in Metropolis. I don't know if, you know what I mean? There's built in conflict there because Bruce is always just that way with everybody. But
Mhm.
back to this movie. I gotta say, the scene that got me, definitely, there were two scenes in that movie that like pulled at my heartstrings that really, really were like, wow, that's awesome. Where it was, of course, the Pa Kent scene. Of course, because it is revealed that some way, somehow, it is revealed that the rest of the message was that his biological parents wanted him to come here and do bad. I think that could be retconned in a future DC project, but for the sake of this movie, it is canon as of now. And just that whole thing of like, yeah, but I agree with people who said that this makes Soups actually a cooler character because even after learning that, it's like the biggest life shattering news he could have that he's mentally dealing with it. It's like, yeah, but you were raised by the Kents. Like you were raised to be good as a regular man on Earth, you know? Go ahead.
I well, I do agree that that scene was very touching and emotional and very important. But the part that I found interesting, and I think the way that they wrote it was so that it can be retconned, is that like the translation of the video was done by Luther, and and because of the fact that he never lived there, I don't think he speaks the language.
Right.
And
Like,
so
yeah.
he doesn't, so he can't even verify if that's what it said.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
to me, I think the only person who can figure that out is Kara, because I think she probably knows how the
Ah,
language.
yeah.
And so in my head, he's going thinking that's what they said. I mean, Luther said that's what, I mean, I don't know why he's just going off of what Luther
Well,
said,
Mr.
but
Terrific also has that line where he's like, they wouldn't be verifying it if it wasn't true.
well, it's also like I don't know if that's yeah,
Correct.
but
Like,
I to me because a lot of people were mad about the fact because like that's not really comic accurate to what, and so I think in my head in the Supergirl movie,
mhm.
I assume he'll be in it. I would think.
I assume too. Yeah.
I would guess there will be some part in that movie to where she watches the video and is like, "That's not what it says at all,"
Yeah.
and so I think that's maybe going to be retconned as like a
Yeah.
he's learning more and yeah, because I think
Because
there's a lot of about Krypton that he doesn't know.
right. And I think the we're going to learn more about this version of Krypton
Hmm.
throughout this saga, obviously,
Yeah.
it just of what the Kryptonians were really like. And you're supposed to walk away thinking, oh, were they actually evil? Sort of like the Omni Man race in Invincible. Um, and now if they were super powerful, it kind of makes sense that they would be, but I'm with you. I think that's retconnable. The other scene that got me, shout out Cleveland, is when that building is coming down and
Hmm.
he saves the last person, which again made me feel better about destruction. There's a whole montage in there where they clear the city. There's a giant that like, oh, it's coming here. They evacuate the city. So I'm like, okay, well, there's no one in these buildings, right, or whatever. He emerges from the rubble, and it's like straight out of comic book, like, and the theme of him is just swelling. I was like, dude, this is what I came here for, like truly.
Hmm.
Um, Got to talk about that final fight because we realized that the reason he lost his very first fight is because he's fighting himself. Literally, I'm like,
Yeah.
and I thought to myself, well, if they reveal who Ultra, that is that. I will say that was that a surprise to you because I know the comics well enough to know I'm like it's one of two things. Go ahead.
I yes. I mean I don't think I really had any idea.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, that makes sense. I
Yeah.
think well, it made sense when there was the whole like how did he get into um past the DNA like lock or
Yeah. When they
whatever.
walked right
I
into the
yeah,
it's Fortress of
yeah.
Solitude, I was like, oh, okay, so he must be a clone then. Like I immediately thought of it, like because he would have the DNA. Because they even say, "How are we supposed to get in?" And Lex is like, "Ye of little faith," and they just walk in. And I'm like, "Well, that was easy. They must detect that Superman's right here."
Yeah.
um, I figured I'm like, it's either gonna be Bizarro or it's gonna be his direct clone. I immediately was like, and they made it look like him. It was Dangerous Corn Sweat with a whole bunch of hair, basically.
Yeah.
Um, I thought that the way he defeated Ultraman was sick. I loved that too. Flying down there, and it's like, all right, well, what are we gonna do here? And it's like, well, in effect, just that thing. He breaks his arm, flings him over, bam, just through the black hole. I was like, well, that'll do it. Shout out the Guardians.
Mhm.
The Jake is in the movie, actually for a pretty substantial amount of time. Like
Yeah, yeah.
he actually at one point rips the field up because he's using the engineer to whip
Yeah.
at Ultraman. I'm like, oh, this is actually incredible. The grounds crew of
The
the Metropolis Meteors is going to be very upset.
well, I think baseball is probably the last of their concerns
Yeah,
with the
that's true.
entire city split in half.
That's true. It's a good point. That's a good point
But
when you put it that way.
I yeah, might be a few weeks before they start having games there again. Um, I found I thought it was cool the way that like first of all the like creepiness of her power to where she can just like invade you.
Yeah,
That's terrifying. But then the way that he like I guess had the forethought to just fly up and then just drop down
yeah,
because he'll be safe anyway. Was that was kind of a cool move, I thought.
yeah. That was actually pretty graphic too. Him pulling
Yeah.
the stuff out of his mouth. I was like, oh snap! They was really down in there. They established the engineer's still alive. She was just unconscious,
Mm.
effectively rendering anything that Lex had empty at that. Got to talk about the Daily Planet crew. I thought they were a little undercooked in this movie, but there's enough of them in it that there's fun stuff in the future. The Jimmy Olsen Eve thing is definitely a comic accurate thing, and it was another one of those things of this. He's got these angry text messages at him. I'm like, are they about to tell me that this is Eve and that's the secret source? And when he says he's got Superman in a pocket universe, I'm like, she's the only one who would know that. So yeah, Jimmy
Yeah, yeah.
Olsen was great in the movie. I
The
thought.
the I loved the like oh Jimmy Olsen just gets women all the time. Like
Jimmy,
that little thing is so funny.
I'm like, yo, Jimmy. So Jimmy Olsen is just like in his 20s, prime Brad Pitt attractive. Like this is it's just like incredible. Or I jokingly Brad Pitt now. I might be glazing because I also
Well,
saw F1 since our last show.
it is
Go ahead.
funny. I mean, I don't remember the actor's name, but he's been in a lot of stuff like since he was a kid. I because he was in Psych when he was, like a real young kid. Um and I think he's been in a lot of other stuff since then. And so I remember when I first saw him like in the trailers and stuff when I realized that was who Jimmy was, I was like, "Oh, that's
Yeah.
I was like, I remember that guy." But Beck Bennett in this movie
Which one
is
was he?
um oh, I don't even remember the characters.
I'm
He was
literally on IMDb right now, so I'm just trying to.
the I wh- well when he didn't get a seat on
Yeah, that's
the plane, I was like, oh, like it's definitely like a oh that's just Beck Bennett playing like Beck Bennett
yeah, it
type of
is.
thing. That's very funny.
Why didn't I get a seat? That was the biggest. That was the biggest laugh of the theater, both of the movie,
Yeah.
both times I saw it. But I also liked how it shows that the Daily Planet crew like is like, yeah, the city's being evacuated, but they're just locked in, Perry's telling him what to do. You guys come with me. We'll wait this out in the ship. And then they just write the article that completely ruins Lex.
Yeah.
That was awesome. I thought that was like, oh, everyone's got something to do here, which is great. Something I thought was pretty poignant. I know we already talked about the scene at the end where Lex gets attacked and everything. When Lex realizes he's defeated, he's crying in that last scene. I missed that the first time I saw this movie. When the news story happens, it's actually pretty funny because Otis is like, Lex, and he's like, what? Like he's just been attacked by Crypto and everything. And then when he realizes that like his entire plan, which let's be real, I think this movie was like us seeing the apex of a plan that he's had in place for 3 years since he
Yeah.
discovered. I think we were seeing like the amount that he's gone into this from the conflict, generating the conflict and everything. This was like the plan Z, like if like for SpongeBob movie, this was like the culmination of like 3 years worth of planning. And when he realized in that moment that literally everything had completely gone wrong and he was completely defeated and it was all Soups' fault, like he cries. And I just think that that is like a moment of like, not saying it cries, but like he's so defeated and he's so broken up about this that there's nothing more, but it's like showing him at his weakest, point. And like he has been truly defeated. And then when he glares at Superman and Soups just looks at him with like that disappointed, like dad
Hmm.
face, I'm thinking to myself, like, that's the apex of their character right there. Like, this dude cannot stand you, and yet, like, this dude doesn't understand why. But everything that Lex has going with his daddy issues and everything, and it's like, wait, this beacon was just out of the sky. It's just a
I
perfect concept for a supervillain, for
the
Superman.
the dynamic between Lex and Superman is essentially the dynamic between Andor and Cyril, to where they
Mm.
meet and Superman's just like, why do you hate me? And he's like, what do you mean? Why do I
I
hate
hate you.
you? He's like, what's your problem, man? He's like, what's my problem?
And it's something to be said about like someone who's a human who's so all powerful in his own way of having to build up, but also stepping on probably a lot of people on his way up to do that. And yet there's a moment I sent a picture of you from All Star Superman last night before we were recording this of Clark and Crypto on the moon looking at Earth. And that's a really touching image to me as well because like his whole sentiment is to him that's the most beautiful sight. Like Clark does not know anywhere else to be home. And he's like anything I can do to make these folks do that and he's like and I'm not really even one of them, but I lived among them and I essentially am one beyond my powers. And and that I think was just the most beautiful thing of like it had the lookings to me of um, him looking upon his neighborhood on a job well done, on a day saved. You know what I mean? World's still spinning. And crypto's up there with him too, because why not? Crypto's just able to do that. So um, this was a beautiful movie. I want to say just on our cast, dude, like I was walking out of there, I was like, my dad would have loved this. Like I walked out and I really had this feeling of warmth, this feeling of love, this feeling of movement of that right there is exactly what my dad was talking to me about years and years and years ago of what Superman meant to him and means to so many people. And to be able, and I thank James Gunn for giving me that. I thank him for giving us this movie. And quite frankly, I thank him for caring this much. When I'm not trying to talk your ear off about it, but when he teared up that Jerry Siegel's grandsons
Mhm.
loved his script and approved it, and he's just remembering it again and he's crying. I'm like, this man cares so much, and I think we're in really good hands. And quite frankly, we can talk about the cameo at the end. I cannot wait for Supergirl.
I can't either. I mean, I that was the first thought I had after the movie was over. I was like, all right, now when did Supergirl come out? Like,
Yeah, I would take 10 more of what I just saw, please. Like,
I was like, oh, I was like, this is very funny, and I can do with the whole movie of
oh
this
yeah.
content.
Well, and it's comic accurate, right? Because I'm
Mhm.
currently reading All Star Superman. The next thing I'm going to read is probably Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, because it's completely based on what they're doing with this.
Mhm.
And it makes sense that they're going to show her go on this arc where she learns she's overcoming depression. And I think they're going to go a mental health direction with that movie. I really do think
Yeah.
like coping in one way versus actually dealing with your problems. And we're going to learn more about Krypton. It sounds like it's going to be totally in space and not on Earth, which I think
Yeah.
will be very refreshing since this one was so grounded and on Earth. So I look forward to that a lot. Gotta say, like the way she comes in is like, "Where's my dog?" And I'm like, "Ah, it makes sense." And then Crypto's jumping on her, and the ground's just breaking, and he's like, "See,
Yeah.
this is why he has behavioral issues." Like, "Yep, this is why." Like, come on, like you can't.
I I just need like a whole movie of them two together and just like going back and forth because
Oh yeah,
clearly like this is like it's such a weird like concept and it makes sense, but like she's older technically and she remembers Krypton, but he doesn't.
he
And
doesn't.
so
He's only
he
known
like
Earth.
his completely like his worldview being and then being completely unfazed by whatever darkness she witnessed on Krypton,
Yeah,
and then he's like lecturing
yeah,
and she's like, what is your problem?"
like you don't lecture me. Like you're boring and annoying. Like it's funny. They had a very slight interaction, and you can tell they're cousins. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you would talk to your cousin. It's like, he's like, come on, dude, why'd you move the door? He's like, I didn't move the door. And he points to the way. And it's like, oh, okay, so she's just drunk, she's just hammered and or is hungover. One or the other is happening right now. So
I do find that funny. You go to red sun planets to get drunk.
yep. Yep. There's a little bit of a paradox there. It's like, well, wait, you just get into a yellow sun to fly back? Why would you be drunk still? I don't know. I'm not overthinking it too much. But this was an absolute joy. I just want to see if I said everything I wanted to say here. There's always like one or two things where it's like, oh, I forgot to mention that or that. But um, it gave us every little bit of what we would want. And I don't know if this necessarily needs a direct sequel, but this was so good that I really hope James does another one. Like,
Mhm.
I really want to see a future Superman story. And they won't go directly to Dark Side or something like that. Like, there's a few ones, like, I think Brainiac would be a pretty cool, like, second villain. There's some others like on the level of Superman, but I think it's maybe that'll be hinted at in Supergirl too. And then of course we've got a few more other obscure projects that are coming from the DCU after that. But like I
I
really now want to see more of him, you know?
I'm curious on if we're going to get another Superman movie anytime soon, or if it will just be like him and the crew are in this other project.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's like it's sort of like how Thor Ragnarok is in effect and also an Incredible Hulk movie. Like
Yeah.
I can see something like that happening where, and who knows, maybe he'll have more of a significant role in Supergirl than we think. Um, I think tonally, there's going to be definitely like a rocker kind of attitude with that. Um, I also will say, like all of us, the "I'm a punk rocker" song has been stuck in my head as well since I've seen the
Yeah.
movie, and it's actually pretty cool because Iggy Pop even came out and said that he loves that this is happening with the song, and he says Superman is the best friend you can have. I was like, that's a great quote right there. He's very punk. It's very punk rock. So um, that's all I got on this film. I for one am very happy that you loved it as well. I had someone ask me if it was bad, would you have said it was bad? I'm like, I probably would have been the first one to say it was bad. Like, I really would, but I think it's getting to the point now where my love for Soups is really grown in the last few years. Reading more of him prior to this, I am just so happy that seemingly the entire world is sharing in that love for kind of the first time again, like
Hmm.
since the '78 Christopher Reeves film. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
David is portraying the character in a way that doesn't feel like Christopher Reeves because it doesn't have to. I'm like, make it your own version of him. Um, and quite frankly, I can't wait to see the arc of this Superman, what he does and what he could become. You know, any more thoughts on your end?
I mean, I think we've talked a lot. I mean, I liked it. I have I have lots of positive things to say, but we've touched on pretty much everything. So
Long live the DCU, and what a start. That's
mhm.
what we got for this week. I also want to just shout out Morgan for the incredible Superman cover that's going to be on this show.
Yeah.
I am so happy. I was just beaming with joy when I got that. So, shout out to our incredible cover artist as well. Um,
Also,
yes,
I guess while we've been recording,
yes.
breaking news.
Oh no,
Uh, Damian Lillard is going back to the Blazers.
really? Okay,
He's
okay.
signing a 3-year deal to go back to the Blazers. So
Well, that's pretty sweet, actually. That's actually really cool news to end on. I'm sure he's.
mhm.
I now look forward to the ovation he's going to get when he first comes out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's going to be awesome. That's cool. Well, shout out Dame time. This is Kellen,
This is Casen.
and we will see you as always at the next stop.